I know you love adding dimension to your card projects, and today I want to share a super simple technique with a tool you already have in your craft room for making beautiful cards with a little bit more dimension. Cards I'm sharing, I made with one color of cardstock and one color of ink, and they are just stunning. Let's take a look at them. Talking about today is scoring. Have you ever done decorative scoring on your card projects? If you haven't, you definitely want to stick around. You can make beautiful cards effortlessly with this technique. I want to share a few tips for scoring. First, a few ideas for doing different designs, different decorations, angles, all kinds of tips. Then we're going to look at some beautiful card samples. So look, first I just wanted to show you, you may want to use your bone folder. You can use a stylus. This is on my Take Your Pick tool. Typically I do my scoring with a bone folder, but that is preference. Now you may notice that I'm turning this at an angle. Why is that? If you ever have problems with your tool jumping off track and going crooked, it's because your elbow, your arm is trying to move in a different angle than your board. So I encourage you to line this up at the same angle that your arm wants to move as you are scoring. So as you're doing this, if you want to do straight scoring, pretty simple. You can line it up like this. You can do different sides. You're going to see a lot of designs here in just a minute. But I want to show you some tips for making it a little bit easier. So sometimes it's a little awkward to do your scoring over here on this side if you're right-handed. Now, if you're left-handed, this is all reverse, of course. Here is a way to make it a little bit easier. Turn it upside down. You can do your scoring this way, much simpler. Another idea is to rotate it. And sometimes I just turn it all around and I do the first line inside the border all around. Is just super easy to do this way. Let's look at some angles. When you want to do angles, this can get a little bit more complicated. So what you can do is make a template out of cardstock. Really easy, right? You can make these in different angles. To make this one that is a 45-degree angle, I started with a square of cardstock and just cut it from end to end. Here's one that is at a different angle. You can play around with these, but you can use these to line up your cardstock, and tape is your friend when you want to hold it in place. And you will get better at seeing where the tape needs to be to stay out of the way for your angled lines. But now we can do some really great lines at an angle. Now, you'll see some on my samples that I had angles going both ways. So we end up with a diamond pattern in the background. To do that, all you need to do is turn your cardstock 90 degrees, continue your scoring. You will end up with the crossing pattern in the background. Let's go ahead and look at the samples, and I'll give you a lot of ideas for how you can use this in different ways. Here are the stamps I used on all of these cards. I think this is a beautiful stamp set with the horses. Just to expand on my greetings, I pulled in some from this set. Really nice for thinking of you cards, and you're going to see this birchwood embossing folder in the background as well. So I told you I only used one color of cardstock and one color of ink. So here you're going to see I used vanilla cardstock. I used crumb cake ink. These are very much neutral, but beautiful. So here on this one, I did exactly what I just showed you as I was rotating that piece of cardstock, where I just scored one line in all the way around this piece right here. Thought it's so simple, but just really stunning at the same time. And I use that embossing folder in the background. Now, here you're going to see on this one, the lines pop up instead of down. So this is something you can think about. After you do that scoring, you can flip that cardstock over and use it the opposite way with those lines popping up for a different effect. When you're thinking about patterns you can create, one pattern I like to do is where the lines are narrower on one part of the card, and as I go across the card, I space them out. So I scored in the first groove, then I counted 2 and I scored again, then I counted 3 and I scored again, until I continued all the way across this card. I've done these, same idea at a diagonal. They turn out really nicely as well. Here is a nice card. You can see I scored all the way around these smaller pieces of cardstock on this one. This is in contrast to this next card where I just scored on the top left and bottom right parts of these. They're squares, but I turned them at an angle to look like a diamond. And this is where I pulled in some of these other greetings from that other stamp set that I thought were really nice. Next, let's look at some diagonal ones. Here's one using that idea that I talked about. I did 4 diagonal lines close together. Then I went 2 and scored again, 2 again and scored again. And then the next several are 3 groove lines apart. Here's one where I did the double diagonal and you see that nice pattern in the background. I do want to show this. This is another thing you can keep in mind. And you'll have to look closely to tell the difference. But on this one, I stamped first and then I scored. On this one, I scored first and then I stamped. So on this one, all of my stamped images are fully inked. Let's look at this one just a little bit closer. And you're going to see that because I scored first, then when I stamped, there are certain places where the score lines were that the stamp did not fully ink. And I did that on purpose. So back here on the cabin, you can tell, here on the fence, you can tell, here on the horse's face, you can tell. But this creates kind of a neat effect when you do not get that fully stamped image. Here's another one. And for this one, I used the other triangle for my background. So it just comes in at a different angle than these other ones did. But I thought this one was nice. I had fun playing. When I first looked at it, I thought the stamp set was all about horses. And then I started looking more at some of these other stamps. Realized you could create some really neat scenery with the other ones as well. So that's all my cards, but we cannot leave without talking about scoring envelopes. So I just wanted to show you a few examples. This one, I just opened that flap up and scored a few times on the flap. Here's one I scored across the entire envelope. This creates a nice frame for your address here in the center. Here we have some at an angle. This one, I just did that first line right inside the border, but you can score on your envelopes as well. So try this out on one of your upcoming projects. I think you'll be amazed at how beautiful the cards turn out. We always chat at the end. I thought today I would share a little bit about how I store some of the food from our garden. The last few years I've been raising a huge garden. I went on this special diet. I was not eating processed foods. It gave me a lot of reason to grow a bigger garden, preserve as much food as I could, and that should have good results in our family, hopefully staying healthier, right? So anyway, some of the canning takes a lot of time. It's a lot of work. Having a jar to fit all of the food from my garden, that would not be, that would be a lot of jars. I'd have to spend a lot of money on that. But I've been finding easier ways to store some of the produce. So I thought I would share that with you because gosh, it could help a lot of other people too, right? So some of the things I've done, this isn't exactly storing food, but the last couple of years I've picked all the green tomatoes in my garden before it frosted. I know some of you do this, but a lot of people don't. Nobody ever talked about it. I didn't do it. I had fresh tomatoes ripening in my garage. I just put them in like a plastic bin that has ventilation in it. They were ripening in my garage until December. I still had fresh tomatoes 2 months after I had picked them. So that's a great way to have some fresh produce. I learned a couple of years ago that if you let the zucchinis get big and huge and ginormous before the frost, those store for a long time at room temperature. Other things you can store at room temperature, we know this, like potatoes, sweet potatoes, onions. I've been raising more of those things. Other things like pumpkins and butternut squash and spaghetti squash, all of those things you can store at room temperature. Some of them store better than others. Onions especially, I look up varieties that are good storage onions because some onions will store for a long, long time. Some of them don't, they just rot. Part of it depends on how you harvest them. After the tops start to fall, I dig them about a week later. I let them sit out for part of a day in the sun. Then they go to a shelf in my garage where they dry out for several weeks before I cut the tops off. Learning all these things really helps things to keep longer. Some of the other things, I got really excited when I learned about this. Beets, carrots, other root vegetables. You can store in several ways. Everybody said, you look this stuff up on the internet, they tell you you have to refrigerate all this stuff. You don't. There's better ways. Back in the day, did they have refrigerators? No. Did they have grocery stores? No. And they survived. Okay. We've just lost a lot of this knowledge. But those things, 2 years ago, I stored in damp sand in plastic tubs in my basement. This past year, I used damp sawdust. We have woodworking shops everywhere. We're in the middle of Amish country. There's one right down the road. I called them up and was like, hey, can I come get some of your sawdust? Sure. Some guy comes and takes it, and I think he beds his livestock with it. He didn't mind that I came and got a couple of garbage bags full of sawdust. So you have to make sure it's damp enough to keep the produce moist so it's not going to dry out, but you don't want it to be so wet that it's going to rot. And dehydrating, I do some dehydrating, and then you can throw that stuff in soups. I haven't gotten into like using those vegetables for casseroles and things yet, but I'll probably get there someday. But dehydrating is great. I do freeze some things. That's a lot easier than canning. Takes a lot less time. It takes up freezer space, which is a downfall because I run out always because I have too many things. And then fermenting is something I've learned a lot about. So sauerkraut, fermented pickles, beet kvass. I think I've mentioned before, it's a drink that is really good for your liver. Anything fermented is full of probiotics. Our bodies are craving probiotics to keep them well. And anyway, beet kvass, you can ferment anything. You can ferment salsa, you can ferment ketchup, you can ferment garlic. People ferment garlic and honey, and it's like a superfood. There's all these things you can do. But anyway, fermenting allows you to preserve the food for a lot longer without the canning process. You basically put it in a jar with some salt. Sometimes you have to add some water, and it keeps itself for a long time. So that's pretty fantastic. I've done some fermenting. I want to get more into it. A lot of people don't like the taste. We need to learn to like that taste again because it's really good for us. That's what I've got for you today. Thanks for being here, my friends. I hope you'll be back again next time when I'll be here helping you to hand make with love.